Hello, I am your teacher, Mr. Pacitti, and this is my classroom here in Denver, Colorado, so put away your mobile phones, put away your Firefly Fun Houses. It's time to concentrate, it's time to study. This is Raw, and this is Graded. We are kicking things off with the man, the Raw Women's Champion, Becky Lynch. She comes to the ring and says that she was fully expecting to kick Sasha Banks' ass all over Colorado, but Sasha cannot be here tonight because she is hurt. Instead, she is going to face Charlotte Flair, and Becky Lynch is ready for a war. In fact, she's going to rip Charlotte Flair's bloody arm off. Out comes Charlotte Flair. Charlotte says, "Hey, Becky, I don't want a war. I don't want you to rip my bloody arm off. In fact, all I want is for us to be friends again." Psych! Bam! With the mic. Let's do a fight. So the two scrap as we go to break, we come back from commercial and the match is on. And this is pretty much exactly what you would expect from a Becky Lynch Charlotte Flair match. We've seen it countless times before. Ultra competitive, two of the best women's wrestlers in the whole company. In fact, in the whole world. And this was great, a great opener. At one point, Charlotte Flair gets Becky's head between her legs and just repeatedly rams it into the mat. There are various submission attempts by both women. Charlotte with lots and lots of near falls. However, she ends up getting rolled up by Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch wins the match. Lovely match here. It gets a B+. I was a little bit frustrated with the finish just because I think WWE do the roll-up victory a little bit too often lately. However, should have seen it coming because it's Charlotte Flair. I don't think she's going to be tapping out to the disarmer. And it was still fun. It was a good, strong way to open the night. The promo part was kept short, it was concise, and the match itself was really strong. We go backstage and Seth Rollins is being interviewed. He says that he's going hunting tonight. He is on the hunt for the Fiend, and he is going to burn it down. Yeah, cool, dude. We'll get back to it in a bit. Next up, Stephanie McMahon is out on the ramp. We've got the first round of draft picks tonight, which I'm going to run down quickly now. Seth Rollins, the Universal Champion, is staying on Raw. Brock Lesnar to SmackDown. Loads of money. That's a Harry Enfield reference for you in 2019. Charlotte Flair to Raw. The New Day staying on SmackDown. And Andrade to Raw as well, which I absolutely loved. Nice way of making Andrade feel like a big deal here. Big fan of that. Speaking of which, Andrade is in action next. His opponent is Ali, and these two have had some tremendous matches together. Some of my favorite SmackDown matches in recent memory. I think it was back in May of this year. They had a series of matches and they were all fantastic. This was no exception. Andrade with his trademark vicious offense. First of all, he pushes Ali to the outside of the ring, and then he throws him shoulder first into the ring post, and then he just continues to work the arm throughout the match, healing it up at various points, trapping Ali through the ropes and just using every second of the ref's 5 count. Ali does make a brief comeback. He nails a dive to the outside over the top of Zelina Vega, but Zelina Vega then nails him with a Hurricane Rana, which leads to Ali eating the Hammerlock DDT, and Andrade picks up the win. Another B+ here, and certainly the right result. Imagine if Andrade had lost this one after being the 5th pick tonight. Wouldn't have made any sense at all. Fun match, enjoyed it a lot. Back to Stephanie McMahon. So Raw get the women's tag champs, the Kabuki Warriors. Daniel Bryan is staying on SmackDown. Raw gets Rusev. Phew, I thought we might lose the Lashley-Lana storyline. Bayley staying on SmackDown. Weird ordering, considering the women's tag champs got drafted first before Bayley, but okay, whatever. And finally, Alistair Black heading to Raw. The Raw Tag Team titles are on the line next as the Viking Raiders challenge Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler, and another pretty fun match here. There were some cool spots. They were scrapping at ringside at one point, and Dolph Ziggler nailing a zigzag on a chair in the timekeeper area. Good stuff. After a while, Roode finally manages to make the hot tag. In comes Hanson for a great little flurry of offense. A bit later, Roode is almost put away following the spinebuster zigzag combination, and then later he eats a glorious DDT, but Hanson manages to break the count. I just realized I've been using their old names for this whole thing. I don't care. Their old names are better. Long story short, the Viking Raiders hit the Viking Experience, pin Dolph Ziggler, and we have new Raw Tag Team Champions, the Viking Raiders. They bloody well did it. Oh, do the horn thing. That's is it that way? I can't even remember. Good job, lads, Hanson and Rowe. So I like this. It's another bloody B+. The match probably should have got a B, but I've upped it to a B+, simply because I think WWE could have stretched this out over a few more weeks. We could have seen a screwy finish here or a DQ. However, they kept the Viking Raiders really strong. They're super dominant, and now they're our Raw Tag Team Champions. Bring on the AOP. I want to see these big, burly bastards scrap it out in the next few weeks. Please, Vince. More draft picks now. Cedric Alexander on Raw, Nakamura and Zayn sticking around on SmackDown. Humberto is getting the call up to Raw. Congratulations to him. Ali staying on SmackDown too. And finally, Eric Rowan seemingly getting the singles transfer over to Raw. I guess the push is over, or at least the tag team push is over for Big Red. Quite late in the draft selections here. Alistair Black versus Eric Young is up next, and there's not really that much to say here. Eric Young getting in a little bit more offense than the Singh brothers did last week, but not by much. He gets kicked lots, he gets kneed lots, and then ends up getting locked in that new Dragon Sleeper finisher. Alistair Black picking up the win, predictably. This unfortunately just gets a C. It was fine and everything, but Alistair Black should be doing so much more. He needs a feud because these glorified squash matches are going to get old very, very quickly. He's been on the main roster for a while now. Hopefully, with the brand split properly happening again, following the draft, he'll do something proper. Give the man a feud. Time for some more draft picks. Buddy Murphy is heading to Raw. Please, piss and use him every single week. He's so, so good. Roode and Ziggler heading to SmackDown. This was your chance to split them up, guys. I thought that is what was going to happen after they dropped the Raw Tag titles. I think there's something that's gone on WWE.com where Dolph Ziggler sort of takes the blame for losing, so I think we'll probably see them split sooner rather than later. Maybe that's the first feud on SmackDown. We're going to get Roode versus Ziggler. Who knows? Jinder to Raw. It's exciting stuff. Carmella to SmackDown, and bad news for R-Truth because they've split them up. The 24/7 champion heading to Raw as well. We then get a quick promo from new Raw superstars, the Street Profits. They end up getting confronted and ridiculed and eventually beaten up by the OC, and there is our first main roster feud for the Street Profits. I'm glad that they're not just doing backstage nonsense anymore. I mean, this was backstage, but it wasn't nonsense. We've got a feud set up. OC, Street Profits. I can take that. Fine. Ricochet versus Shelton Benjamin is up next in one of those draft showcase, lazy booking, BS matches. Ricochet wins, obviously. It's very difficult to care about this match. As much as I love Ricochet, and I really like Shelton too, it was just thrown together. It's another C, which is a shame because this would have got a higher grade had it actually meant something. We all knew that Shelton wasn't winning here, and Ricochet winning is the right result. I'd just rather see him do something with a little bit more substance. Regardless, a pretty good match. Ricochet with lots of lovely flips and all that. You know the score by now. He's very good, isn't he? Next up, we go to some massage parlor. Lana is laid out on the table. She's getting massaged. She says that she wants it deeper and harder. Get it? Like penetrative sex. Yeah, that's the joke. In comes Bobby Lashley, who starts massaging her leg, and he's working his way up. And it's all very, very erotic, and then he lifts the towel and definitely sees her boobies, and bloody hell, I love pro wrestling. It's a D. Take my D, Bobby. You earned it. Next is the contract signing between Tyson Fury and Braun Strowman for their match at Crown Jewel. There's not that much to say here, actually. So Braun talks first. He basically just goes, "You're gonna get these hands." You know the score. Tyson Fury says that, "Braun, I was actually a bit of a fan of you, and that's why I was there on SmackDown. I was there to see you, buddy. However, basically, I'm going to kick the poo out of you." And then Braun gets all pissed off and smashes the table like that. And then Tyson Fury grabs a pen and after a few goes, he breaks the pen in half. Unfortunately, this gets a C-. Had last week not happened, it would have gotten a higher grade. However, cast your minds back to the end of Raw last week. Think back to that intense brawl where all of the superstars and the referees and the agents couldn't separate these two guys, and we finished with that fade to black where we didn't know who was on top, but they wanted to get at each other's throats. This was a massive step down in terms of intensity and effectiveness, I think. Tyson Fury was still good here. Love him or hate the guy, he's pretty good on the mic, but yeah, it was just a step down. It was fine still, the penultimate round of the draft, and we've got Samoa Joe, currently injured, going to Raw. The Miz going to SmackDown. Akira Tozawa heading to Raw. Bye-bye 205 Live. King Corbin to SmackDown. Finally, took you a while to get to Corbin, and Shelton Benjamin is heading to Raw too. Speaking of 205 Live, Buddy Murphy versus Cedric Alexander is up next, and this is exactly what you would expect. Just a great match between two wrestlers who we all know work so well together. This was a nice combination of high flying, some really stiff knees from Buddy Murphy. Buddy Murphy continuing to bring this unparalleled intensity, and this one gets a B. Buddy Murphy ends up putting Cedric away with Murphy's Law. Again, I think that's the right result. And I'll just say what I said earlier. Please properly use Buddy Murphy. Put him on Raw every single week. The guy could be huge. He's so talented. Let's move on. But before we do, it's the final draft picks. Rey Mysterio is heading to Raw. You chose Rey after Akira, after Jinder. He's Rey Mysterio. Whatever, okay, fine. SmackDown gets Chad Gable. I refuse to call him Shorty. Titus is staying on Raw. Who cares? Elias sticking on SmackDown. And Liv Morgan is going to head to Raw at some point. Who knows when? Next up, the Kabuki Warriors take on Natalya and a mystery opponent. I bloody love a mystery opponent. Who could it be? Beth Phoenix is over there. Is it her? No, no, no. Ronda Rousey, maybe she's come back early. No, no, no. It's Lacey Pissin Evans. It's Lacey Evans. I'm not joking. So after the super intense rivalry that these two had, which ended literally last week, when Lacey was thrown through that table, now they're best friends, they're best buddies, despite the fact that Lacey Evans was a proper heel throughout this feud. She was a total dick. Doesn't matter. Natalya, forgive and forget. Whatever. I despair sometimes. So yeah, the Kabuki Warriors versus Cat and the Hat. It's the best that I could come up with, okay? And this match felt like it went on for about a year. Yeah, this match got like 15 minutes or so. I'm not sure if earlier segments went under or something, but this could have done with 5 minutes shaved off or not happening at all. There was nothing fundamentally wrong with it, and it did pick up at points. It just dragged a little bit. I'm gonna give this one a C+. I feel a bit bad. I didn't like the ending either, with Asuka picking up the win with another roll-up, when I think the Kabuki Warriors could have done with a more dominant win, because their previous few wins have been thanks to heel tactics, and they should just be beating a thrown-together team like Lacey Evans and Natalya in convincing fashion, and that didn't happen here. Anyway, main event time, and the main event is the Firefly Fun House, which is fine, but Seth Rollins has popped up to fulfill his promise, and that promise is that he's going to burn it down. Literally. So Seth confronts Bray in the physical set of the Firefly Fun House. He attacks him, and then Bray's like, Seth, why are you doing this to me? And that was cool. And then Seth lays him out again, and then gets some matches out, and literally sets the Firefly Fun House, WWE's most popular and arguably most entertaining recurring segment, sets it on fire. He burns it down. Good job. I hated this. It gets an E. First of all, I really don't like the idea that the Firefly Fun House is this physical environment which Seth Rollins can somehow find backstage in the arena. That doesn't quite work for me, but I'm willing to forgive that. However, the image of Seth Rollins burning down the most enjoyable part of Raw for the last several months now, when he's the WWE's top babyface, or is meant to be, it doesn't work for me. And I think it just makes him look like a bit of a bellend. This isn't going to get people behind Seth Rollins. Like, WWE realised that we love the Firefly Funhouse. If this is all a slow burn, excuse the pun, to a Seth Rollins heel turn, okay, maybe that will work, but I don't want to see this be the end of the Firefly Funhouse either. I guess it can be brought back. This was a poor ending to an incredibly below-average episode of Raw. I'm giving this week's episode of Raw what I think is a rather generous grade of C-. I get that it's a draft episode, and there's lots of little bits of admin to take care of, as well as maybe new feuds to set up. However, that doesn't detract from the fact that this should have felt like a really special episode, and actually it was just boring. It was a boring episode of Raw, and I feel like I'm saying that too often recently. There were some good matches, but nothing massively stood out except for the Seth Rollins stuff, which in my opinion wasn't very good at all. But well done to WWE for making Burn It Down a literal thing, I guess. Speaking of which, why did the hipster burn his mouth? Because he sipped his coffee before it was cool. Get it? Cool. Like Seth Rollins. Poor bastard. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. You can follow us on Twitter at Cultaholic. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you enjoy what we do here at Cultaholic, you can pledge to us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And most importantly, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us.